Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Entertainment with Buford and Francis. Today, I'm cosplaying Buford Van Stom, Phineas and Ferb. I'll be telling the story of the Pirates of the Caribbean, specifically the Curse of the Black Pearl. Enjoy the video. A massive ship emerges from the gray and unnatural fog. The HMS Dauntless, the pride of the British Royal Navy, sailing on a voyage from England to the British settlement of Port Royal. While the Dauntless sailed through the Caribbean Sea, young Elizabeth Swann stands at the boat rail, gazing at the sea while singing a pirate shanty. One of the sailors, Joshami Gibbs, warned her about cursed pirates. After Lieutenant Norrigan intervened, stating his superstition about singing about pirates in the unnatural fog. Although Elizabeth expressed her fascination for the subject of piracy, both Norrington and her father, Governor Swan, showed their concern, with Norrington stating that he intended to see all pirates get a short trip and a sudden stop. The Dauntless then happened upon the wreck of a merchant vessel, which Gibbs took to be the work of pirates. Prior to this, Elizabeth spotted a lone survivor, young Will Turner, lying unconscious on a piece of driftwood. After being brought aboard the Dauntless, Will roused in time for he and Elizabeth to introduce themselves before he lapsed back into unconsciousness. Elizabeth then noticed a gold medallion about his neck, which, after seeing a skull, gave her the thought that Will was a pirate. Fearing that Norrington would have Will hanged, Elizabeth takes the medallion from Will before he was taken below decks. As Elizabeth stood on the bow of the Dauntless, looking at the medallion, she caught movement out of corner of her eye. Looking up, she saw a tall ship with black sails moving silently through the thick fog. At the top of the highest mast blew up a flag that had the same skull as on the medallion. As the ship sailed quickly into the fog, Elizabeth widened her gaze upon realizing it was a pirate ship. Fearing the black and white flag billowing in the wind, Elizabeth shuts her eyes. We rejoin Elizabeth 8 years later as she wakes from her dream of that fateful day. She still has the medallion kept in a hidden compartment in a chest of drawers, and puts it on. Her father, Governor Swan, knocks on the door, startling her. He then enters with a gift for her, a dress from London. He hopes Elizabeth will wear it to Captain Norrington's promotion ceremony. She agrees to wear it, though finds the corset highly restricting and uncomfortable. The governor receives a visitor in the form of Will Turner, who has forged a sword for the soon-to-be Commodore. It is clear he has developed romantic feelings for Elizabeth, but they part on less than friendly terms, owing to her station as the governor's daughter and his, a lowly blacksmith's apprentice. Meanwhile, a strange figure is approaching Port Royal on board a sinking dory. Captain Jack Sparrow is in the market for a new ship, and, after bribing the harbor master, he heads into the docks and as high above the Fort Charles. Norrington's promotion ceremony gets underway. Jack is accosted by two Marines, Mulroy and Murtaugh, but distracts them with mention of the legendary Black Pearl. On the battlements of the fort, Commodore Norrington offers Elizabeth a proposition. His new status has made clear to him that he has not yet taken a wife and sees Elizabeth as a fine woman. Elizabeth faints, though less through shock at James' words, and more because of the tightness of her corset, and plummets into the sea, far below. Jack, having engaged the Marines in idle conversation, dives in and rescues her from the seabed, from where her medallion sends out a mysterious pulse, a signal sent across the waters. Back on the harbor, Jack's interest is piqued by the medallion, but his questions are forestalled by Norrington, who arrives with the Marines to arrest the pirate, having recognized a brand on his forearm as the mark used by East India Trading Company to identify pirates. Jack, however, holds Elizabeth hostage long enough to have his efforts return before making his swashbuckling escape into the port. As he tries to escape, Jack meets Will Turner, who is now John Brown's blacksmith apprentice. inside of the blacksmith shop, and a sword fight ensues. Eventually, Jack is knocked unconscious by Will's employer, who has slept through the entire sword fight, and arrested by the Royal Navy officers who have just broken into the blacksmith shop. That night, Port Royal is besieged by the infamous ghost shop known as the Black Pearl, a black vessel crewed by a vicious, bloodthirsty crew and captained by a man reputed to be so evil that hell itself spat him back out. The mysterious pulse which emanated from Elizabeth's medallion seems to have called the Black Pearl somehow. Crew members from the Pearl find Elizabeth, who hides her true identity as the governor's daughter by using Turner as a last name, in possession of the medallion, and take her back to the ship. She invokes the rule of parley, parley in Middle English, parley in modern American, a negotiation or discussion between two parties, particularly in military situations during which no harm can befall the adversary, in order to be taken to the captain of the Black Pearl, Hector Barbossa, to ask that he cease his attack on Port Royal in exchange for the medallion. Barbossa agrees, but employing a loophole in their agreements, abducts Elizabeth. Later, Elizabeth is asked to dine with Barbossa and to wear a red dress. When she refuses, she's told the captain she'd said that, in which case she'd be dining with the crew and she'd be naked. Elizabeth decides to wear the dress and dine with the captain. The next day, Will, having seen Elizabeth taken by the Pearl's crew, falls in his passionate efforts to convince Commodore James Norrington and the Royal Navy to pursue the culprits immediately, despite the Commodore's own feelings towards Elizabeth. While the Commodore puts his faith in strategy, Will takes up an offer by Jack Sparrow to rescue Elizabeth in exchange for breaking him out of jail. After absconding with the Royal Navy's fastest ship and assembling a crew to man it on the lawless island of Tortuga, Jack and Will set off to find Barbossa in the Black Pearl, which is heading towards Isla de Muerta, a mysterious island that's supposedly undiscoverable, save for those who already know where it is.